I'm Jim Bullard, Dean of the Daniel School of Business, Purdue University. The U.S. economy has been surprisingly resilient in the first part of 2024 here. We had a relatively weak first quarter GDP number, but that, if you look below the surface of that, what's called final demand by economists was actually pretty strong. And now the second quarter that we're in right now also looks pretty strong. So these persistent forecasts of a recession just around the corner, which have haunted the U.S. economy during 2023 and 2024, just aren't materializing. So I think really in GDP terms, I think we have a pretty strong economy. A lot of people feel like the economy isn't as good as they would like. I have ideas about that. I think that average hourly earnings haven't kept up with inflation, so a typical worker like you and me probably have not seen real wage growth as much as we would have liked. And so I think that's the source of people saying that even though the overall economy actually looks pretty good, they're not seeing it in their own paychecks, and I think that's been the key issue for the economy in the last 2 years. Inflation in the U.S. has been exceptionally high over the last 3 years. It is declining, but only slowly, and last year we got a lot of disinflation. That's a lower level of inflation, but this year we've kind of stagnated at around 3%, and that's still too high for the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has a 2% inflation target. There are multiple ways to measure inflation, but they've all come down, and so there's good news, but it has been sticky, and the so-called last mile of inflation to get from 3% down to 2% is proving more difficult than was anticipated. So we'll have to keep an eye on this and see how this progresses, but if inflation hangs up at this higher level, that means higher interest rates for longer. Yes, well, the Fed has been very cagey about what they're going to do. As always, they want to see more data on inflation in particular to see if it's really coming down to 2%. I think if they get confirmation that the disinflationary trend has reasserted itself from last year, then they'd be willing to move the policy rate somewhat lower. But so far this year, they haven't gotten that confirmation, and there's a little bit of a threat that inflation would go higher. So for now, they're just staying where they are. There's really no urgency for the Federal Reserve to act. The news on the economy, at least in broad terms, has been very good, and inflation has been coming down, but hasn't come all the way down to where they need it to be. So from their point of view, they might as well just stay where they are, and I think that's the holding pattern that we're in for now.